A long time ago, it would have been gentlemen flyers in bomber jackets, sipping cups of tea stood almost exactly where we are now. These days, things have changed and it's bike racers in leather suits with energy drinks. Now the drinks and machinery may have changed, but the speed-thirsty personalities I'm sure remain the same. So from an old Royal Air Force airfield to one of the fastest tracks on the MotoGP calendar, this is After the Flag from Silverstone. What was it like getting onto this bike?
Now I feel comfortable.
Spin around for us.
Last time out on After the Flag, we spoke with someone who's been in MotoGP almost all his life, so we thought it fitting this time out to talk to someone who's only done 2 races in the Premier Class, plus he happens to be British. Leon Camier. Leon, thanks a lot for joining us today. Right, you're on the bike, and there's a reason for it, because we thought it would be very nice to actually talk to you, because you've come in, no experience here in the Premier Class, but you've had to adapt very, very quickly. I mean, first of all, what was it like getting onto this bike, which I think is a little bit smaller than a superbike you're used to?
Yeah, the first thing I noticed was how small it was, and you know the position of everything was Nicky's position, though, foot pegs, handlebars, seat, and I got on it and instantly thought, there's no way I can ride this. It was that small, and yeah, I mean we've made a few adjustments, but yeah, now I feel comfortable on it. But it just took a few adjustments to handlebars, foot pegs, and a higher seat basically.
I mean, one thing people can't see is you are a very tall guy. I think if you were to get off the bike, you'd be about here now. quite tall for a racer. But in terms of the adjustments you do have to make, I mean, maybe you can just run us through it. I mean, you said, so foot pegs, do they actually have to go further down, or can't they go down? Do you have to go backwards?
We've gone 10 mil further down. As you can see here, there's a few adjustments. We've gone 10 mil further down and 10 mil further back, and that's it.
Right.
That's the only as much option as we could have. And with the handlebars, I think we've ended up going 10 mil further forward and pushed them out a little bit more than what Nicky had. Also with the seat, there's a pad on the back of the seat just to put me a little bit further back, and we've made the seat I think around 20 mil, something like that, higher. And yeah, believe it or not, that them small numbers make a big difference. And yeah, I feel comfortable on the bike now. I can get tucked in as good as anyone, and yeah, in the corners. Yeah, it depends on the corner, but obviously I look a bit bigger because there's more of me, but I can still get tucked in and do everything good. So the important thing is being able to move your weight around to be able to get the bike to do what you want, you know. And when you're cramped, you can't do it, and for smaller riders, they have a similar problem, is they can't move themselves around enough. So yeah, it works out not that bad. Now the bike's comfortable, I can move, and yeah, I feel good on the bike.
But does it, obviously it's a bit smaller, it's a bit lighter, but it's got that much more power. Did you notice that a lot, or were the electronics already almost so perfect that it didn't feel that violent? Yeah,
I mean, my initial thought was how smooth everything was on the bike, and yeah, with the power delivery, the way it works, I was expecting something crazy, and it was the opposite. It was like really nice and soft to ride, and yeah, the way with the electronics, normally super bikes, depends on what electronics you've got, but the ones I've ridden on of late weren't that good. You have to move your weight around a lot to stop it wheeling. You have to make the difference, you know. But on this, you can just hold it flat and the electronics just sort themselves out basically. But the harder thing with this is you have to get the chassis right. And if you get the chassis right, then the electronics, you maybe have to adjust them a little bit to suit, you know. If the chassis stops wheeling more, then you have to adjust electronics to suit that. So, but I mean, for sure, electronically, it's a lot further on than anything I've used before.
One of the big things people talk about, except the electronics, Bridgestone tyres. I think it's in particular the front tyre, and also the carbon brakes. I mean, how different does it feel going into a corner? I think lots of people that ride bikes think of the concept of braking, letting off, turning, but it's very different with these, isn't it?
The biggest difference, the carbon brakes, the basis is you have to warm them up before you go out, but that means, yeah, when you first touch them, nothing happens. It's like hitting a plank of wood. Nothing happens at all. And so going out the pitch, you have to keep jamming them on, and nothing happens. And then, yeah, eventually they start to get a bit of heat, and then bang, they start to work. And they go from nothing to a lot. So as soon as you've got the heat in them, then it's just a matter of trying to keep the heat in them. And then it's not too bad. The tyres are the biggest difference for sure. The front tyre, yeah, you can use so much more of it. You know, you can bury the front tyre into the ground and carry the speed on the entry, and that's a hard thing to get your head around, and then you need to adjust the bike to allow you to do it, basically.
So in terms of the first times you really went into a corner, I mean, did it for you, coming from a superbike, almost feel like, oh no, I'm actually gonna crash?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. You have to just keep pushing the boundaries, and, you know, the sensations are still all the same. from a superbike. You know, you sort of understand roughly where you are. You get feedback from it, but yeah, as I said, then it's trying to get the suspension right to keep pushing, to keep going further. You know, to understand how much the whole package can go further. Basically, that's the hard thing to understand from coming from a superbike. It's just getting your head around that point.
Okay, well, to understand that, you need time. Obviously, you've got another race weekend here in Silverstone, but what about your future? I mean, I think you've impressed a few people around the paddock. Will we be seeing you full-time here in 2015?
I can't say anything at the minute, obviously, but yeah, for sure we're talking with teams, and there's some good interest, which is good to hear. You know, it means people are understanding what's been done so far, and yeah, everyone's been quite complimentary, so this is good, but yeah, I'm not sure what's happening in the minute. There's no deals been signed or anything. We're just in discussions with everyone.
Right, well look, in that case, thank you very much for your time, Leon, and all the best for the future.
No worries, thank you.
Cheers.
Well, we ventured a little bit south for this special feature for After the Flag this week. Marc Marquez, he may have broken all the records so far this year, but he's never yet ridden across the Millennium Bridge in London. In fact, nobody has. So for this special occasion, we've been equipped with this. Let's see what we can do. Are you ready for the day, Georgie?
Cross this way before.
Yeah. Morning, Martin.
Good morning.
The taxi driver. How long have you been a London cabbie?
27 years.
Have you driven a MotoGP World Champion before?
Let me think about it. No.
Just testing the onboard cameras. Let's have a look. Are we on? Hey, hello to After the Flag. It's been around for us.
It's okay.
It's okay. What's in the case?
We don't know yet. It's a secret.
So you have driven celebrities before then, Martin?
Yeah, Eric Gould, Roger Moore. We need to repeat many times.
This is what we're talking about doing the same thing about 10 different times. So we're in a taxi right now. Morning, guys.
Yeah, morning.
How are you this morning?
Look, this weather, fantastic.
Fantastic weather. It's
Yeah.
better than Barcelona.
Hi, mate.
Good morning, guys. Sun is shining. How are you this morning?
Totally in charge. I've got a radio that I don't know. London, love it in the sunshine.
Changing inside the taxi is not so easy.
Yeah, how was it to change inside
I
of
get a
taxi?
little bit sick.
Do you know Roger Moore was in this taxi once, James Bond?
No.
I was speaking.
Nah.
No, I'm not joking.
Yeah?
Diego Sperano, the only Argentinian in Dorna. Hello, Diego. Just spotted Danny Kent's on the bridge. Oh, yeah. So you're going to the pub?
Yeah. Hello, mate. All right.
You want an old commentator? Ah, that's very kind of you.
You did about 12 minutes.
Actually, my hair's shorter than Mark's hair.
What do you mean, what happened to
You know, what happened to
Too much stress in my life from Marc Marquez. It was too fast. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I can't believe they brought a Spanish guy over to ride on the Millennium Bridge. I'm very disappointed, if I have to admit. But
This is the best part, and now I've got a weekend stuck in a box for you for the rest of the week.
Dylan Gray, who's at the circuit, start talking now.
In Silverstone, we were rewarded with some absolutely stunning racing, and I'm pleased to say that after numerous feedback and requests from all of you guys, we're now going to be showing highlights from all three MotoGP classes. So that means including Moto2 and Moto3 from this program onwards. So let's start with Moto3. Alex Rins on pole, but the early action was unfortunate crash for Efren Vazquez. He did manage to walk away unhurt, so that was at least one of the good things. Up at the front, we then had a group forming. Alex Rins, Alex Marquez, Enea Bastianini and Jack Miller. But things weren't quite going to plan for Jack Miller, had a little bit of a scare and then dropped off again. Miguel Oliveira then joined the front group and was leading for a little bit, but in typical Moto3 fashion, it came down to the last lap and almost the last couple of corners. Going into the last few corners, anyone could have won, but in the end, the final drive out, Alex Rins got the best drive and managed to win in front of Alex Marquez and Enea Bastianini, who rounded out the podium. And then moving on to Moto 2, Johan Zarco, the poleman, got a great getaway, but there was an early incident between Maverick Vinales and Dominic Egerter. Vinales escaping relatively unscathed, Egerter going into the gravel but managing to rejoin in the end. Then it was Mika Kallio. He managed to take the lead and everyone thought he might be running away with it like he has done in some other races. Behind him, absolutely fantastic battle. Maverick Vinales, Johan Zarco and Tito Rabat fighting it out. Just behind them as well, also in contention, Jonas Folger and Simone Corsi, though Jonas Folger unfortunately took them both out of the running. In the group in front, it was Tito Rabat who turned out to be quickest and in the end caught up with Mika Kallio for an absolutely epic last couple of laps. And it was Tito Rabat that managed to take the win ahead of Mika Kallio and Maverick Vinales. And finally, the MotoGP race. Marc Marquez may have been on pole, but the person who got the best start was Jorge Lorenzo, and he led into the first turn ahead of Marquez and Andrea Dovizioso. Someone else who got a good start, Aleix Espargaro. He made it quite tough for Valentino Rossi and Dani Pedrosa to get past him. After that, two groups formed. We had Lorenzo Marquez up front fighting for first place, and behind them it was Rossi, Pedrosa and Dovizioso fighting it out for third. Now Marquez didn't make his move on Lorenzo until about 7 laps before the end, and then many people thought, right, now it's over, but Lorenzo fought back, arguably had one of the best races of his season, fighting right until the very end. In the group behind, Pedrosa left it very late. I think it was 1 lap before the end where he managed to get past Andrea Dovizioso, but then didn't quite make it past Rossi. So in the end, it was Marquez first, ahead of Jorge Lorenzo and Valentino Rossi. We should also mention top Brit here in Silverstone, Scott Redding. He was 10th after Bradley Smith had a cracked rear rim. And of course, an honourable mention for Leon Camier, our guest on After the Flag, who continued his learning curve in 16th. So that made it 11 wins for Marc Marquez from 12 races.
Well, you know what? A friend of mine laughed at the end of the last show because I suggested to get the barbecue ready for the British Grand Prix, that it won't rain. Well, I say no more. What a fantastic day in terms of weather and in terms of racing as well. And look what we found up here on the podium, the remnants of these celebrations that went on here. Here's how the standings shape up then after round 12 of the campaign. Marc Marquez, 89 points now ahead of his teammates Dani Pedrosa, and he becomes the first rider since Rossi in 2005 to win 11 Grand Prix. But only 10 behind him is Valentino Rossi, third overall. Lorenzo 32 behind after finishing second here today to Marc Marquez. Can he maybe jump up to second overall before the end of the season? And only 18 points, covering 6th position all the way down to 9th. But Bradley Smith has dropped to 10th place and really loses out after his non-score here this afternoon. Now Marc Marquez has done it then. It's 11 out of 12 in 2014 so far. And next time we're off to Rossi's homeland. It's the San Marino Grand Prix at Misano. Can he make it 12 out of 13, I wonder? And celebrate with another one of those. We'll see you there.